Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That is, the praises to Allah. The praises to Allah, the guardian evolver, cherisher, and sustainer of all of the worlds and all of the systems of knowledge. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. That is, I bear witness there's no God but the one God, Allah alone, and there's none like unto him. And I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa alihi wa sabbihi ajma'in. That is, the prayers and the peace and the blessings be upon Muhammad forever and ever, and upon his companions, the righteous all. Amma ba'd. Praise be to Allah, we are here for the Jumu'ah. We know the weather is a little different in terms of snow being on the roadways and so on. But we thank Allah for blessing us to have the ability to get here to the Jumu'ah here in what Elijah Muhammad used to call this place, the hills of North America. We know also the Imam Muhammad called it America the Beautiful and America the Ugly. So we want to focus on America the Beautiful, inshallah, and make it more beautiful with our contributions, inshallah. So I begin the khutbah by giving the title of the khutbah that I intend to do here, and that is Human History and the Qur'an. And I always wanted to try to help people pronounce things correctly. And if you're listening well, you know I said Qur'an, I didn't say Qur'an. And I also said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam instead of salam. So if you say salam, then that's a noun. But that's a verb on that beautiful phrase. A wonderful phrase in the sense that it begins with a verb and it ends with a verb. And you don't find too many Arabic sentences or phrases structured like that. Salama. And that salama is suggesting that we want Allah to invoke peace after peace after peace after peace in a very intense way on into forever on our Prophet Muhammad, the greatest of our human beings that ever lived. And we know Allah says in the Qur'an of him, Innaka la ala khuluqin azim. Surely you, Muhammad, had to tell Muhammad, you stand on the most magnificent standard of exalted character. Praise be to Allah. So I begin now by reciting from the Surah 21, and it's called Al-Anbiya, that is the prophets. And Allah says, got it in big print, but I don't want to mess up here. Iktaraba lin-nasi hisabuhum wa hum fi ghaflatin mu'ridun. The surah gives a picture, beginning in this particular surah, closer and closer to mankind or the human family comes their reckoning, hisabuhum, or their accounting. And right away when I say that, we all know that this is talking about closer and closer we are coming to our judgment, to what our lives was about through the history of our lives. And it's very interesting to note that Allah begins the ayah by saying, Iktaraba. So karaba means to be close or to be near. But Allah gives us the eighth form verb, Iktaraba, suggesting that this reckoning that he's talking about is not talking about the physical reckoning, but it's talking about the reckoning that you and I will have when our souls, the non-physical part of ourselves, will be judged. And we know Allah doesn't need our hands or our bodies. He has everything in a kitabun mubin, a clear book, a clear record. So then he says, yet they heed not and they turn away. Speaking of this human family here, it's very interesting to note that he begins this in the sense of telling you that this is past tense. This reckoning is coming for us, but it's already been decreed whether I'm going to hell or whether I'm going to Jannah, you see. So Allah puts it in the perfect past tense to let you know that he is El-Qadir. You say, you are going to meet this reckoning. He says, it's already coming on you. Already coming on all of us. And then it says, Ma yatihim min dhikrin min rabbihim muhdathin illa istahma'uhu wa hum yal'abun. And he says, never comes to all of them of a renewed message from their Lord, but they listen to it as in jest, playing, you know. So here Allah is letting us know that throughout the history of the human family and its evolving and so on, he sends renewed messages. So we know that the Prophet Muhammad came with the last book, but we've had messengers since then, not in the scriptural sense, but we know that Farah Muhammad was a messenger, Elijah Muhammad was a messenger, W.D. Muhammad was a messenger, Martin Luther King was a messenger in the sense of giving a message or conveying a message to the people. We get a message now where they're trying to make it seem like if you say anything about a gay, you can be prosecuted or you can lose your job. That's a message too that the psyche of the people is being affected by. Some are buying it and some are saying, no, we don't want same-sex marriages. And I often wonder if the Muslims should get on out there and lead the charge, and perhaps the Christians who appreciate their Bible will join us, because they know in the Bible language that Allah, he destroyed, as you know and all of us know, Sodom and Gomorrah for that same homosexual stuff that they're trying to put here in the community today. Boy Scouts. No, you got to have some gay scouts. So the Boy Scouts are fighting that, you see. Praise be to Allah. So in continuing, this word yal'abun, la'iba, means to dribble with the mouth, or the spit come out your mouth like the babies do, just sheer play with no real intent or anything like that. So Allah is saying to us that we are playing just like a baby that dribbles the spit out of his mouth or her mouth. And then it says, La hiyatan kulubuhum wa asarul najwa وأصروا النجوى الذين ظلموا هل هذا إلا بشر مثلكم أفتأتون السيرة وأنتم تبصرون. And then it translates here by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Their hearts toying as with trifles, like it's insignificant, you know, what's happening here. The wrongdoers conceal their private counsel, saying, is this one, speaking of the Prophet, more than a man like ourselves? Then Allah asked the question, will you go to sorcery and witchcraft with your eyes open? This is a question that Allah is asking us. And I repeated the question. أَفَتَحْتُونَ أَسِيرًا وَأَنْتُمْ تُبْصِرُونَ. So Abdullah Yusuf Ali translated as with your eyes open. And so, you know, I know you can read this for yourself, so that's why I'm trying to give a little bit more from the grammatical perspective. In fact, I would encourage you strongly to read the whole surah. It's a surah that will put you in the spirit of looking at the day when you're no longer on this physical earth. I mean, so many ayahs that talk about those kinds of things. And, you know, I wish I was more conscious of death when I was a young man, you know. So I would encourage you young people to be more conscious of death, and you can get more done. So I live my life now like I might die any second. That's the way I live now. Praise be to Allah. And I would encourage us all to live like that all the time, no matter what age we are, inshallah. So it says here, and you all are seeing with your eyes and your mind. You know, you can see it with your eyes and you can see it with your mind. And why am I saying eyes and mind? Because basara means to see with the physical eye, but also means to have a mental discernment. So Allah is telling you, you can see this and you know it too, and you still going into witchcraft, you still trying to pull the society into accepting homosexuality and gay marriage and things like this, and you see this. And then it says, the ayah 4, قَالَ رَبِّي يَعْلَمُ الْقَوْلَ فِي السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. It says, he said, speaking of the prophet, my Lord knoweth every word spoken in the heavens and on earth. He is the one that heareth and knoweth all things. Now, this is very interesting. I just happened to stumble on this yesterday in the footnotes. The Basra grammarians, in the history of Islam, Basra, I believe it's in Iraq, became a real strong place where grammar and study of the Qur'an was very, very intense. And so they say that this should be read, kul, say, being that the prophet was being commanded to say this. But the Arabic text says kala. So I'm wondering, are they trying to say that this was a mistake? And then the Hafsa reading, what is the Hafsa reading? This is the reading from the Qur'an that Hafsa had. And they use that as a standard. It says kala. So I just thought I'd mention that to you. But either way, if it's kul or kul means say it, and then kala means he said. So if a prophet said it, we are assuming that Allah told him to say it. Okay? Praise be to Allah. And then I'll go into a more English flow here, because I know there's a lot of verses. I know it's going to take some time. But understand that I do this because you and I have got to get to the point where we have the ability to read this and understand it. And even go to little dictionaries like this. So there's not a whole lot you need to know to be able to go to an Arabic dictionary. If you would only just take the time and have the confidence that you have the brain power to do it. In fact, we had a Dr. Hibi Omar here, and he was telling the people, I don't really know Arabic that well, he says, but I know how to go to dictionaries, So that's what you want to be able to do, to be able to go to a dictionary and look up words so you can get more clarity. Inshallah. Inshallah. So the next ayah 5 says, nay, they say they are a medley of dreams, speaking of what Allah revealed to the prophet. Nay, he forged it. Nay, he is but a poet. Let him then bring us a sign like the ones that were sent to the prophets of old. As to those before them, not one of the populations which we destroyed believed. So then Allah asks another question. Afahum yu'minun. Will you all today believe? A is asking a question. Fa is consequence. Whom they, yu'minun. Will these believe? This is what Abdullah Yusuf Ali says. Praise be to Allah. But in actuality it's saying, and so, are they believers? Are they believing? Before thee also, the messengers we sent were but men to whom we granted inspiration. If you realize this not, ask of those who possess the message. Then Allah goes into humanizing the prophets. This is the surah, Al-Anbiya. He says, nor did we give them bodies. They ate no food, nor were they exempt from death. And in the end, we fulfilled our promise, and we saved them, those whom we pleased, but we destroyed those who transgress beyond bounds. This part, transgression beyond bounds, is this. وَأَهْلَكْنَا الْمُسْرِفِينَ. The root is halakah, H-L and K. You say, well, what is that, Well, I know you know this. They had that green big monster, they call him the Hawk, right? It's H-U-L-K, right? And it's clear to me, or I suspect, put it like this, that they took this word from Arabic, which means destruction, and put it on that character. So if you look at any Arabic dictionary, look under hawk, it'll tell you clearly it means destruction. Well, instead of saying hawk, they say hawk, So Allah is saying, and we destroyed them. وَأَهْلَكْنَا الْمُسْرِفِينَ. We destroyed the extravagant and those who went beyond the bounds. Praise be to Allah. So it's very important for us to realize that we're Muslims, but they know that the only thing that's existing that's going to shake this thing up and get it as it should be is Al-Islam. I was riding around in my car one day, years ago, I never will forget it. And the Imam Muhammad says a lot of different things, but I remember him saying, only Al-Islam will save this dead world. And we know that's the truth. We know that's the truth. Praise be to Allah. And then it goes, لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. That's the third question. Allah is asking 3 questions in these 10 ayahs. We have revealed for you, O human beings, a book in which is a message for you. Dhikrukum, you all's message. He's really telling you this message, you own this message. If you only but knew, this is for you. You are owners of this. Dhikrukum, you all's message. Kum is you all, right? Plural. I say to you, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. And then he's asked the question, Afala ta'qilun, will you not then understand? So the reality is, how can you and I understand, really understand, if we are not students of the Arabic Qur'an? You cannot get the spirit and the drive and the richness of the meaning without it. So from Adam to Muhammad and beyond, we have and are still receiving the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, those 3 questions are, will these believe? Will you not then understand? And the other one, will you go to witchcraft with your eyes and mind open? ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Our Lord, cause not our hearts to swerve or deviate after you have guided us aright, but bestow upon us mercy from your presence, for surely you are the grandest of the givers. Ameen. اللهم نستعينك ونستغفرك ونؤمن بك ونتوكل عليك ونثني عليك وكاير ونشكرك ولا نكفرك. O Allah, we ask for your help, we ask for your forgiveness, we believe in you, we trust in you, and we extol and exalt you in the best manner. We are thankful to you, O Allah, and we are not of those who are ungrateful or reject this message that you gave to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as you all know, this is the month of African American history here in this United States of America. And if you've been around as long as I have, you recall Imam Muhammad saying that there's some insulting things about having this month as our month. And he mentioned, number one, that this, if you follow any horoscope, is the month of the fish, Pisces, you know. And he's talking about how the Pisces the fish is a symbol of emotionalism and foolery, you know. Put a little meat out there, fish, grab it and he's gone, you know. And then he also said they picked the shortest month of the year, right? And he had some other complaints too about this, you know, Afro-American, they said at first, right? He said, why we want to say Afro-American? Why can't we just say the whole name, African-American? They don't say Italo-American, he said, you know. You all remember that, right? And so that message that he delivered, you don't hear too many African-Americans saying Afro-American. They say African-American. Praise be to Allah. So it worked. That this message that Imam Muhammad has given has worked in a lot of ways, and sometimes in ways that we don't really realize. He also attacked the idea or the trend that was existing of Afrocentric education, right? Like the education is based on telling us about David T. Walker, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and all of that. And if you notice, he gave great props to these freedom fighters, if you will, and also inventors and all of that. But then after doing that, if you followed the flow of his logic, he began to say, you can take pride in what Thomas Alva Edison did. You can take pride in what Alexander Graham Bell did. Any accomplishment of any human being, you can take pride in it. But if we follow that so-called Afrocentric mind, we'll put ourselves in an Afrocentric box, right? Where the whole country is moving forward and we still in the box. So he knocked that. But at the same time, he gave us great knowledge of these heroes. In fact, many of us read the book. David T. Walker, his appeals. That's some powerful stuff in that book. It's inspiring. And when I read it just recently again, you know what it did for me? It made me again say, I got to commit the rest of my life to making what he talked about happen. You see? So if any good comes out of learning what these African-American heroes did, it would be for we have inspiration to make what they talked about, what Martin Luther King talked about, a reality, inshallah. But to just laud them, that's one of my black brothers, he did this, he did that, you know, that's putting us into the box. And we don't want to be in the box. Praise be to Allah. So we talk about history. I remember when I was coming here years ago, Hasty Muhammad and some of the others, they would say, you see how they got the word? That's his story. His story. They not the real story. He said, that's his story, you know. This is what they was telling us. So they had us in the mind to suspect any history that the Caucasian man gave us, suspected as being untrue or possibly untrue. Praise be to Allah. And I thank Allah for Elijah Muhammad, you know. He said to me on the album, you know, it reached others too, but it hit me to the point where I became interested in Islam. Never knew anything about Islam before this statement, but he made this statement. The judgment of the world is now, part 2. He said, if a man does not treat you right, how is he going to teach you right? I was laying down on my rug. I said, that's right. The white man had taught me the wrong history, the wrong economics, the wrong this. And I went on the journey. And I'm still, you know, on the journey. Praise be to Allah. So those of us who, you know, want to think that we've just abandoned the positive stuff that Elijah Muhammad gave or the positive stuff that Imam Muhammad gave, those who really understand and possess the message, as we mentioned, they appreciate and they acknowledge what they have done. Praise be to Allah. So, you know, you have people who have a real strong zeal for history, you know, and I like to hear people give analysis of why this happened and what happened to counteract this and so on and so forth. But when I really think about it, I say, Genghis Khan, I read about him. He's a ruthless guy. Stalin, Lenin, ruthless guys in the annals of history, right? So I said to myself, do I really need to know that to get my soul into paradise? You know, do we really need that? You know? But then again, if you're fighting, you know, enemies and people who are bent on going the wrong way, it's good to know something about their history and what motivates them to do this or do that. A good example is Machiavelli, you know. A lot of people use him for political control and dominance and maintaining power, right? And if you were a basketball fan like me, you know that they had a commercial when the Piston games would come on where it says, it's better to be hated than loved, you know. That's a Machiavellian thought, you know. And then another thing they have in the Machiavellian stuff, the book called The Prince. If you don't have it, I would encourage you to get it, not that thick. It says that the wise man, he prepares for war in the time of peace. You know? So things like that gives us some idea of, you know, the mind of people. Praise be to Allah. Then I remember Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He said, this is a day, throwing a bomb here, that will live in infamy, right? He's talking about the day when they bombed Pearl Harbor, right? So then we get the history later. They got movies out on what happened, and we know that they knew that the bomb from Japan was coming, and they just moved a few people out of the place, and then let a few get sacrificed as an excuse to get into the war to help the Yahoo in Britain and the people in England from being taken over by Hitler, you know. So these things are historical points. But again, I say, will it help you get your soul into paradise? So I'm trying to influence you to see the history that Allah gives in the Qur'an as the real important history. Because Allah talks about how he destroyed this, he destroyed that. You see how this person did. And then he gives you examples of what the prophets are, and you and I should try to emulate these prophets, inshallah. So the study of history is good, but the focus of Allah on human history in the Qur'an is more important. This study has to do with our souls when we leave here and while we live on earth day by day. So, we as a community, we have a real interesting past. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. I'm talking about way back into slavery when we got off the boat, and I'm talking about during the time of Elijah Muhammad. I'm talking about the experiences that we had here. There was oppression here, and there was some good benefits here. Imam Muhammad said, and that spirit will never be satisfied. Talking about our spirits here, will never be satisfied until we have an Ummatul Islamiyah following this Quran and following the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as it is opened to us now. Praise be to Allah. Allahu Akbar, he says. That's where we're going. We were created to go there. And he says, we have got to go there. And you know it too. We have to go there. We have to have some kind of a town or a model city where all of what goes on in these other cities, Utah and different places, go on in the interaction of us, descendants from the terrible slave experience. So, you know, there's a book by Frederick Douglass called My Life in My Bondage. This is an autobiography where he's telling you and I how the slave thing went, you know. And if you read that book, it will inspire you for the rest of your life, inshallah, to never be a slave and to try to free not only African Americans, but free all people from being oppressed or subject to people who do not have the mind and the character of Prophet Muhammad and the prophets, the Anbiya that we have in the Quran. And I think a lot, I never was a slave man kind of guy, you know. When I came in here, I didn't get my ex for a long time. Why not? Because I saw some oppression. I said, if I get my ex, I'm going to be a slave to them, you know. But I sold fish and everything else. And some of them who were around, y'all know that, you know. Captain came to me and said, when you going to get your ex? I said, well, you know, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. But I knew that I wasn't going to be, no tin soldier. And a lot of you sitting on the floor, and I was here when y'all were there, y'all were tin soldiers for some of those people. I said, well, why is that person like that, you know? But I never could understand it. But I guess maybe because of my history, my past. My father was a Harlem Globetrotter, and he was a rebel rouser. He always put that spirit of rebelling into me ever since I was a boy, you know. So that's probably what helped me, saved me. So let me just give you, coming to the conclusion, some quotes about history. So I picked those that was kind of like what I like. You know, there's a lot of them on the internet. This is by Abraham Lincoln. He says, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. In other words, you can't use all of this stuff in the past to think that it's going to be workable all of the time in the here and now. You say the occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. Thomas Jefferson. I like the dreams of the future better than the history of the past. Right? That makes sense, right? Then Winston Churchill, one of the orchestrators of the Palestinian problem that we have, said, history will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. And we know the history is written to exalt people and to debase people. So we have been saying for years, and Imam Muhammad has been saying for years, we should write our own history. Inshallah, we're going to do that. And should we talk about all the oppression? I think so. We should get a clear picture of it. Inshallah. Then Mark Twain says, the very ink with which history is written is merely fluid prejudice. Right? His story, right? And then this brother George Satayana, I think he says, history is a pack of lies about events that never happened, told by people who weren't there. Right? So, you know, when I read that, I have to admit, the first thing that came to my mind is that this hadith is similar to that. All this hadith and the sirah is a part of that. Some of the people that wrote this stuff, they weren't there. So should you and I take it as 100% the truth? Because we don't know the people. A person can be a great writer or looked at as being an honorable person. At night, he's a scoundrel. And we know people get away with it, right? Allah protects people. Sometimes he's merciful. Sometimes he'll punish the people that's doing it. So we don't know who is really truthful and who isn't. But we know Allah says, and he compares his book with reports. He says, وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. And whose reports are more truer than Allah's? And another ayah talks about whose sayings are more truer than Allah's. So right away, person say, well, he's not following the sunnah because he don't follow hadith. I didn't say that. I'm just saying to you that it's open to review and criticism and not something that we are obligated to accept as the truth of God. They say authentic hadith, right? So right there in the reports, the format is, it's reported that Prophet Muhammad said this. So it's telling you this is a report. They tell you right in the way they got it structured that it's a report. I was at a khutbah last Friday, and a brother had good intent. He was trying to get the Muslims to come out to Fajr Salah at the masjid. And he's talking about some hadith or something where it says that Satan be urinating in the ears of those who don't want to come to Salah. I said, hey, why would you tell these people that? I said, why can't you just go right to the Qur'an and use the Qur'an as a basis to rally the people? You got to have hadith to rally the people. You got to tell people that the Prophet Muhammad said, coming to the masjid for prayer, you get 27 more times blessings. Then where did the Prophet get 27 more times? Why 27 more times? You know, that's a question I would ask, you know. And then I looked at it, I said, now, if I got a family and I got kids and my wife and whatnot, wouldn't it be better for me to keep that unit straight and make salah at home with them as opposed to thinking that I got to go, you know, miles and miles because I'm going to get 27 more times blessing for myself. What about my children? What about my wife? You see. But anyway, you know, that's another topic, as you all know. But I would encourage you to believe that if you got time to read and study, spend more time with the Qur'an. Spend more time with that. And I'm sure you go to places where the whole khutbah be about hadiths and stories and not even focus on the Qur'an. Continuing, he said, history will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. So we want to be people who are actively engaged in trying to make this place a better place. And we got to get real serious about da'wah and trying to get new Muslims in a new location for us to really move toward the model community that we know that was established in Medina by the Prophet and his companions and the rest. Praise be to Allah. So years ago, let me see what time I got. Yeah, years ago, some of you remember this, that down here at the seminary, they had a picture of the white Jesus, you know, in the middle of the lawn there. And it was a thing where every few months or every year or every week, whatever, somebody went up in there and painted it black. You know, then they painted it white again. Then they painted it black again. Then they painted it white again. And then finally they said, we just give up. We just leave it black. You know, I don't know if it's black now. I don't even know if it's still there now. But I thought that was so hilarious to me that happened, you know. And it's going back to the idea of trying to laud one race over another. And we know that this Caucasian race, as the Imam has already identified years ago, has used that to give the human beings that are other than Caucasian an inferiority complex. And it has worked in many ways, and is still working in many ways today. I think one of the imams mentioned recently how even the immigrants, they'll pick some light-skinned African Americans around amongst us to work with them, you know. I don't think all of them like that, but I'm just saying some of them are like that, you know. Praise be to Allah. So, you know, my name is Siddeeq, right? So I'm being truthful with you, but at the same time, I'm trying to beckon us to a better mindset. And if I offended anyone, I ask for your forgiveness. So I believe I can conclude by using this statement. Use the good history as an inspiration to bring about what the freedom fighters died for. So years ago, and I don't want to use him all the time to beckon you to this, but years ago the Imam said, I think that we should be doing two things more so than anything else. But first of all, you always say education is the first priority. But he said we should be trying to understand the Qur'an better and come up with a translation of it. And we should be studying the life example and the history of the Prophet Muhammad. And so as I stand here, if I ask you all to raise your hand, how many of you have read the history of the Prophet Muhammad? I don't know how many would raise their hand. But there's many of them out there that will help you appreciate Muhammad and help you appreciate that you have the ability to emulate his piety and his devotion. And you could see in the history how Allah led him through all of the muck and mire of the society and gave him victory. Right? So I encourage you, if you haven't, read some histories of the Prophet Muhammad. And the Imam Muhammad encouraged this one, I encourage it too. The Benefactor, the one by Martin Lings, the one by Karen Armstrong, the one by Haeckel. And I'm sure there's some others that are good also. So if you are going to live the example of the Prophet Muhammad, shouldn't you know something about what he went through and what he did? Praise be to Allah. So I believe that's about it. So, praise be to Allah, I am scheduled to do the Ta'aleem this Sunday. And I've given the prayer book out to some of you. And I still have enough to give everybody in here one, because I got a copier machine, a high-speed copier in my basement, so it don't cost me a whole lot. Praise be to Allah. So I'm encouraging you, if you have not, learn your salah. Or if you think you know your salah and you want to fine-tune the pronunciation and get more understanding and more clarity, I encourage you to come to this Ta'aleem this Sunday. I told Brother Talib, I said, yeah, you know, I was thinking about talking about some history. I said, but really, I think I want to talk about prayer today and then try to beckon them to come to learn the prayer. Why am I saying that? Because that has to do with what? Your soul condition, right? And I want you to be in the paradise, and I want to be there too. I want to be in the highest level of it. I would hope that you want to be one of the muqarribun, those who are near to Allah. So if you haven't learned your salah, we're going to have it taped. And the brother, I shouldn't say tape, should I? Y'all come on now. But anyway, you're going to have the book, and you can go over it. And if you don't have the memory capacity, because I'm older now too, I don't remember a lot of surahs right now. I learned a lot in the past. If you don't say them, you're going to lose them. You lose what you don't use, right? So the point I'm making is you can actually just read the Arabic transliteration, stand up while you're making the prayer. And those rhythmic tones are going to affect your soul. Muridun, things like that. Mukminun. That stuff affects you more so than what you realize, you know. Praise be to Allah. So I'd encourage you to come. And I got the book and I got CDs to go along with it. And let me read the announcements and come to the close. This is a little prayer book, The Muslim Prayer Made Easy. And I can give you a little history about that too. One time Imam Muhammad called me up to the stage in Quitman, Mississippi, and says, I want to sell your book, this prayer book, through my ministry. So, alhamdulillah. He said, but I want you to, fine-tune the recording. I said, okay, alhamdulillah. So I got some money to get it done. And all of a sudden I get a letter from his office saying that he wanted me to send the money back, you know. So I never knew why that happened, and I didn't follow through like I should have. But there were some people in his office just a part of our history. They worked against the good that many of us were doing. Praise be to Allah. But anyway, there's thousands of them out in the world, all in the prisons and whatnot, and people have come to me at different places where I go, I learned my salah from your book. I got my daughter, 12 years old, on the back of the tape where she's doing the whole prayer. So I put that on there too. Well, a 12-year-old can do it. Then I'm 60, I should be able to do it too. Praise be to Allah. So this is the dictionary I was telling you about. And we have Arabic teachers. I teach on Wednesdays. Forgive me for giving this announcement. But I love for my brothers and sisters, what I love for myself. And I don't charge anybody for the class. I can get you to the point where you can understand this, inshallah. So if you had this, the Qur'an, and a concordance of the Qur'an, this will help you greatly in understanding. You can get this book from the Halal bookstore downtown, concordance of the Qur'an. So let me find the announcements. It says, what's new? The Masjid Wali Muhammad board meeting is tomorrow at 11:30. We ask all board members to be present. And this is open for the, other believers to be there too, I believe. Project Unity presents the Let's Get Married Conference, February 23rd at the Muslim Center, 3:15 to 7:45, $10 per person and $15 per family. And they used to tell us in the first, brothers, it's better to marry than to burn. And we could take that two ways, right? Burning for the companionship and burning in the hellfire, That goes for the women too, right? Right. That's Bible language too. Better to marry than to burn. Okay. Third Sunday breakfast will be February 17th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Tickets are $7. See your community service members for tickets. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. القارية ما القارية وما أدراك ما القارية يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كإحن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.